You know, it was the last time I stood right here was in 2014, April of 2014, when I was the Economic Development Director for the Matsu Borough, and I did an update on Port McKenzie. So, anyway, so it's good to be back here in a familiar space anyway, but with all new people, and I'm grateful to very much to be here. And I see customers, both restaurant customers, direct customers, and I'm so grateful to you and the way you've helped our company grow over the last 11 years now. And I had the misfortune of slipping on the ice back in February and destroying part of my back, and so I had about an 8-month process. And I would be very ungrateful right now if I didn't take the opportunity. Leo, stand up for a minute. Sorry to put you on the spot. Turn around. This is Leo. If you know Seldovich Family Farm, he lives next door to me. His family lives next door to me. If you ever go to Friday Fling over here, his mother is always there with all the kids selling their vegetables and stuff, and a lot of times our eggs. And so I'm very grateful to Leo. He did the heavy lifting literally this year while I directed and then went and laid down. And so anyway, that's what farming takes. And if you're going to take away one message from what I say to you tonight, is it takes persistency. It takes vision. It takes dedication that comes from that fanaticism. Who's the fanatic speaker? Yeah, okay, all right. And you have to really believe in this. And I saw this when I was the Economic Development Director, and Representative Tarr, thank you for coming out from Anchorage, all the way from Anchorage tonight. I don't know if you remember me presenting at the legislature back then, and food security. And and so it's been a passion of mine because it's a problem for Alaska. And now, here we are 8 years later, and the vision is finally really spreading. People are understanding the urgency. You're feeling the insecurity, and that's important. Next slide, please. So the mission I have Polaris Farm, and I have Polaris Hatchery, and our mission is food independence for Alaskans. And that's been our mission the entire time. Now, my company grew because I have 5 sons that all became hard workers, and they grew up working the farm, and the way they paid for their motorcycles and their wrestling camps and their trucks and their, you name it, and then on to, trade schools and college, they paid for it with raising chickens. And even when they got to college, 2 of my sons roomed together, rented a house, and then started raising chickens in their backyard. So anyway, next slide. And they were the biggest complainers too. So it was good. So Polaris Farm, and I don't mean to tell you about my company to brag, but it's because I want you to know that you can too. And I'm going to show you the numbers of how big the market is for what I do. And 100 of you could duplicate what I do, and we just barely start to meet a part of the demand here in Alaska. So Polaris Farm, we do meat birds, we do turkeys, we do eggs, and we do some produce. We're not real big on produce, but the part we do, we really try and do a good job in. Next slide, please. And then, so Polaris Farm, we have 27 years of experience in chickens, 12 years doing it commercially. In 2021, we did 15,000 chickens. I don't know what this year's numbers are yet. I'm going to be figuring that out. Maybe some of you saw it back in 2020. We did a special project for Connect Tribal here locally, where we produced, we actually taught their members to produce chicken, and we produced 10,000 chickens that they gave away to the entire community, not just to their tribal members. So we were able, and this was the year we were going to go up to the USDA limit of 20,000, except I hurt my back. So anyway, next slide. And we do eggs. And 4 hours ago, you wouldn't want to have stood within 5 feet of me because I was out collecting the eggs, servicing the chickens, and I was all smelly, and it's amazing what a shower can do for you. But anyway, we do eggs year-round. We have a year-round environment for the chickens, and about 550 hens right now, and we're expanding that dramatically in the next year. Next slide. And that's our brand, Polaris Farm. And then next slide. And you can get our products. We have some great retail outlets like Bush's Bunches, Arctic Harvest Deliveries, the CSA boxes. It was really fun at the fair this year where we had a display and people would come up and say, "Oh, I get your eggs in my box." And then Sagaya's is now carrying our eggs. My House over in Wasilla carries our eggs. Blue Market in Anchorage and Natural Pantry, they all carry our eggs, and some of them carry our chickens and turkeys. Next slide. And then the restaurants that we do at the moment, we have Feather and Flower. Heather and Luke back there, thank you very much for, they're the owners of Feather and Flower, just a few blocks away here. And if you haven't been there, don't miss it. They have amazing food. And how often do you switch up your menu? Is it once a month? Yeah, they invent a new menu every month, if you can believe that. And I felt so bad. I went in there the other night and I said, "Oh, I want to try your Dutch babies." And it's a great recipe. And and she says, "Oh, it's off the menu now." So I totally missed it. So don't miss it. You got to go at least 2 or 3 times a month so you can get those good things made with Polaris. That's a 100% egg recipe. And well, what flour do you use for that? Barley flour. You use barley flour. I figured you did. And then turkey red, you all know turkey red. Okay, if you eat the chicken with figs, the chicken scallopini, the Cobb salad, all that stuff, or if you had their turkey dinners. Did any of you get turkey dinner, Thanksgiving dinner from Turkey Red this year? They sold out like that. It was 120 dinners. It was all made with our turkeys. So anyway, you can too. Okay, so next slide. And we do rhubarb. Rhubarb just grows, right? But the black things are black currant berries. They're not blueberries, they're black currant berries. And those are a special crop that we do. To the best of my knowledge, we're the largest single producer of black currant berries in the state. We have a large field. And I bought this property, and there was this field there, and I said to the realtor, I said, "What are these?" And he says, "Black currant berries." And I said, "Is there a market for those?" He says, "Are you kidding?" Yeah, and they're easy to grow. Talk to me. Talk to me. Okay, so next slide. So black currant berries, that's where we sell to value-added product producers. Bear Creek Wine, 3 of their wine varieties are made with our black currant berries. Doesn't quite show up there, but that is Swegale Mead Works and Cider House. If you ever go down to Homer, it's like the destination to have this really amazing wine product. Same thing with Bear Creek. They have a whole wine tasting thing and a bed and breakfast and all that. And then everyone knows Alaska Berry Products. Wild berry products, and they make like the little chewy centers for the dipped chocolate things, and but it's really good. Next slide. So, and then Polaris Hatchery. You may have known us previously as Polaris Poultry, but now we'll start hatching eggs this year, hatching some of our own eggs. So they will be true Alaska-grown local chicks. But we have, that is a pun, isn't it? Okay, all right. But we are, I think we are the largest, according to the state vet's office, because everyone who imports chicks or poultry or any kind of birds into the state, they have to do this online special report. I know for sure last year we were the largest single importer of chicks into the state of Alaska. And we do baby chicks, both meat birds and layers. And then when turkey poults, baby turkeys are called poults, I don't know why, but they do. And then we grow pullets. So if you don't want to go through all the baby chick drama, you can buy your own ready-to-go chicken that's already. A lot of times I ship them out to the villages and things like that, and people open the crate and they say, "There's already eggs in here." And it's because they're actual pullets that are mature and going. So next slide. So Alaska food facts. Next slide. So fact number one, you already know this, we beat it to death, 96% of Alaska's food supply is imported, and it either comes by barge or ship, or it is driven all the way to Alaska from wherever in the lower 48. Next slide. So those, let me just back up on the discussion for a moment. Those are long points of failure. Canada could turn our lights out like that. There could be a storm. There could be an earthquake. Mount Rainier could do its thing and stop everything in Seattle and Tacoma. And we're done. How many of you have heard the name Cascadia before? Raise your hand. Yeah. Is it an if or is it a when? Yeah, it's a when. Okay. So, you know, I'm not going to doom and gloom us here, but these are points of failure that we've got to be prepared to work around, and the way we do that is we become independent from it, food independence. So, economic shifts. Gee, you think that happens now and then? I mean, what are we doing right now with economics and fertilizer and natural, you know, that's made by natural gas? That's going to crash our food supply in this next year here, and for the world. And political wind, we see what's going on with that. Labor disruptions. Did I hear about a rail strike? Yeah, and who brings? What's going to happen to our food supply that comes up on the rail barge into Seward and into Whittier? There's a lot of food. All of our animal food for Alaska Mill and Feed, that's where all the raw materials comes from. As soon as I heard about the rail strike, I picked up the phone, called my rep, and said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Don't worry, we've got inventory set aside for you for the next 6 weeks. Your pallets are already made, name on it. You're good to go." I'm like, okay. So managing your supply chain is key to running your farm. Anyway, and this was all before COVID-19. These were problems that existed before COVID-19, and we've got them even worse now. Next slide. So when push comes to shove, who gets fed? Think about it, okay? 496 lower 48 citizens versus 1 Alaska citizen. Which voice is going to get listened to when food has to be distributed? I mean, think about it. We just had an election. How do we even factor into an election? And I mean, Alaska doesn't. We don't have any statistical impact on the decisions made in the lower 48. We're pretty powerless, honestly. Anyway, and if you're a Matsu resident, there's 3,400 to 1. Next slide. Anyway, these are too long. She just gave me the signal to hurry up. But anyway, the proposal is local state-of-the-art. Where'd the ladies from, there you go. Yep, state-of-the-art vertically integrated operations for food production. And yes, you can do it with all of these factors. You're going to publish these slides, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, next slide. And we can do it, these are areas that we can invest in, not just hydroponic gardening, all these places, all these products, all of this infrastructure we can invest in. Next slide. And so what size is the market? Next slide. Okay, this is what the average American eats. So I'm going to go next slide. So this is what Alaskans consume. Chickens, 14 million meat chickens a year. I don't even touch that. I'm not even 1%. Pork, 195,000 hogs. We need an army of 1,600 sows to produce that many hogs. Am I about right? Okay. And I'm asking Chris at Alaska Meat Packers. Okay, beef, 55,000 steers to produce Alaska's beef consumption. Eggs, 17 million dozen eggs is what Alaska eats. Leo, go out and basket up 17 million dozen eggs for me tomorrow, right? Yeah. And you need 700,000 layers. But you look at this, let me just point this out, and I'm sorry to go long here, but 1,600 sows, that many pigs, is that a lot of pigs? We've got experienced people here. That's not a lot of pigs. Yeah, you could do one farm. There's farms bigger than that. You could split that into 4 farms, 5 farms, and take care of the state. Same 700 laying hens, 700,000 laying hens. You could do the same thing. And then milk, 13 million gallon jugs of milk, 5,100 dairy cows. 5,100 dairy cows. We have a lot of land here in Alaska. We could do 10 dairies. Okay, next slide. And then this is breaking it down for the Matsu. Okay, you can look at it online when she posts it. Next slide. And then, so here's the disturbing questions to ask yourself. Okay, in 1959, when we became a state, 55% of Alaska's food was produced in Alaska. We had less people, I know that. Now 96% is coming from outside. Why is this? How did this happen? Why did we let it happen? Why not do it in Alaska? Why wait? Pull the trigger. That's what I've been saying for 10 years. Yes, it can be done economically. Next slide. And economy of scale is the answer. And I have another hour-long presentation that explain that. And we can't do it tonight. There is a plan. It will work. Next slide. Thank you, everybody.